But in this case, I'm just gonna use some clear epoxy. I'm gonna try to seal all this up. And if I can do that, then I think these will be still beautiful. They'll have more integrity. They'll be more stable. I feel like I'm describing relationships I've had in my life. All right, last time I left you, we had hit a little bit of a snag. Our first real speed bump in the project. My father once said that one of the most important parts of a workshop, if you have the space and I don't, is a, what did he call it? It was a wowing chair? Oh man, moping chair. But a moping chair is a place you go when you make a mistake on a project and you're really frustrated and angry. And instead of, flying off the handle and yelling and making a big spectacle, you walk over, you sit in that chair, and you mope for a little bit. And, well, I don't have a moping chair. So what I did instead was I just stopped working on the project for months. But I've since calmed down a little bit from that fateful day months ago. And actually, I learned something from it. So maybe it was a happy mistake, as Bob Ross would say. It was a happy little mistake that taught me more about how wood and the grain in wood and the growth rings and everything on different species work. Hickory. A species of wood that is beautiful and has all kinds of character is interesting. You're not going to see hickory on everything. The thing about hickory, though, that I'm finding is you're going to have tear out, a lot of tear out. My God, the tear out. It's going to be you're going to have really sharp chisels and saws in order to get through that stuff and make a nice clean cut. But the other thing I didn't even think of really, and I haven't read much about it, but the growth rings on certain types of species of wood seem to be more bonded to each other than others. Beech, oak, walnut, maple, just about everything else that I've worked with. The growth rings were never an issue because those always stay together really well. And the growth rings, that largely creates the grain, the interest in the piece. And when I talk about growth rings, what I'm talking about is this. So normally this bond is pretty strong, but not on hickory. On hickory, it is loose as hell. And what happens is if you put this through the planer in the wrong orientation, the planer wants to clamp on it and push it through, right? And when it does that, it makes this bond between the growth rings want to split apart. Like if you were to take a sandwich, okay? Take a sandwich that's got a whole bunch of layers of goodness and deliciousness and mustard and mayonnaise and ham. I'm a ham guy, I like ham sandwich. But anyway, you're putting that sandwich through, and if you run it through, it's going to be kind of okay because the planer is going to clamp down and the sandwich is going to go through and all the layers are going to stay together. If you were to take that sandwich and orient it this way and send it through the planer, when it clamps down on that sandwich, the bread's going to bow and the cheese is going to bow and it's going to be a mess. It's going to condense it down. It's going to be this big mess of stuff coming out. I mean, I guess regardless, any orientation you put the sandwich through the planer, it's going to be pretty messy. This is a terrible analogy, but I hope it's coming through. So I had enough hickory left over that I wasn't using just yet. That's why you always buy extra. I was able to essentially start over on those pieces that had split, and now I'm good. But that's a nice little lesson that I'm trying to pass on to you if you work with something like hickory or maybe a more delicate type of wood where the growth rings aren't as bonded. You may just want to be careful with that. And if you notice some splitting, that's probably what's happening. So ran those through, remilled those, and I also took some strips of walnut, inserted those in and glued those together. So now I've got a top frame that's going to look like this. I've got the walnut already glued in there. I tend to do this method when I'm doing some kind of inlay or I have like a contrasting strip in there. Some people, my dad used to do it this way. He would actually route out a channel and then he would cut a little tiny piece of wood that he'd set into that, glue it in, and then plane it down. And I didn't do that with this. Because this is easier, maybe a little bit stronger. We also have our chessboard all glued up, or our checker pattern. So now we have this beautiful bad mamma jamma here. Been sitting, so it's a little bit bowed, but the bow is okay because we are going to put this onto a piece of wood like this. We're gonna throw that on there, we're gonna glue it, and then that'll be ready to go. So the plywood will help keep everything together like a giant caul, essentially. And then I will trim up the excess around there. So I have maybe like a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch of that plywood sticking out. And then that plywood is going to go in the channel, the groove that I'm going to cut into the frame that is in these pieces. The bottom frame isn't going to have any inlay. It is just going to be pure hickory that is cut to the same dimensions as the top. So I have 2 identical frames that I'm going to put together using sideboards, and I'll just align those sideboards into that frame. I'm going to use a domino because I have the domino. We talked about this. But you're going to have a biscuit joiner, or you're going to use dowels or something to that effect that's going to make it easy. You could even do just like a tongue and groove all the way down. That would actually be another nice, really way of doing that. That's TBD. It's either going to be a tongue and groove going down the side of that frame, or I'm going to use the domino machine. I'm probably going to use a domino. It's just so easy. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I got the chessboard done, and I got it done just in the nick of time because yesterday was my friend's 40th birthday, and this is the gift for that 40th birthday. This will be kind of a fun gift to give to him because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little note in one of the drawers that says thenorthwestman.com because he doesn't know about the channel. Not many people do, and it's kind of ridiculous because this friend and I are pretty close. So friend, this is my way of telling you that I've got a really bad YouTube channel with half a dozen videos. Please go enjoy those with some whiskey. And speaking of whiskey, we have something to celebrate tonight. Bull Run. So what they do is they make this delicious whiskey down in Oregon, and then they throw it in different casks. This one is a Pinot Noir cask, which gives it a really kind of bright, fun flavor. But you can't get this stuff anywhere. I have to go down to like 1 or 2 liquor stores in Oregon to find this stuff. My brother turned me on to this years ago, and even like the baseline stuff, like their everyday drinking whiskey, is still so delicious, and it's like $40. But this is not that. This is quite a bit nicer. My God, that's delicious. I love this stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the project. It went really well after I figured out how hickory works. Because I was trying to work on this so quickly at the end to get it done in time. I didn't have time to film a few things. One is the drawer making, which you can find anywhere. They're hardwood drawers. I think it's 1/2-inch maple. I did hardwood rails and a groove that slides on those rails. I use my box joint jig on my table saw with a dado stack, which is my preferred way to make fancy drawers. I don't do dovetails. I really like the look of a finger joint, especially on a chessboard, because the checker pattern on the corners of those box joints look a lot like the top of a chessboard. The finish is 4 coats of Danish oil, followed up by a couple coats of paste wax. So that, folks, is the end of the video. Thank you for sticking around till the end and for your support. And I look forward to seeing you next time for the 9th video that I haven't decided on yet. I think it's going to be something to do with the shop. Let me know what you think about that. I'll see you.